Has something strange ever happened to you with an animal? A dog that won't stop staring at you while you pray? A cat that, for no apparent reason, sits beside your home altar and doesn't move? A bird that sings the moment you begin your rosary? What if I told you that's not coincidence? Padre Pio, the saint of the stigmata, used to say that nothing in creation is random. Everything, absolutely everything, can be used by God to speak to you, to warn you, or even to protect your soul from the attacks of evil. Many people think animals have no spiritual connection whatsoever, but the saints knew better. They understood that all of creation is alive under God's gaze, and that innocent creatures sometimes become instruments of his providence. Padre Pio said it clearly: the devil can take many forms to confuse you, but the Creator can also use the smallest, the simplest things to care for those he loves. Think about that for a second. The smallest things: a loyal dog, a curious cat, a singing bird. What if these aren't just pets or random encounters? What if they're messengers? Now, I want you to do something. If you believe in Padre Pio's wisdom, if you've ever felt protected by something you couldn't explain, write in the comments: Padre Pio, send your angels to guard my soul. Your words matter. They create a wave of faith that reaches others who need this message today. Here's what I'm about to reveal to you, and I need you to stay with me until the end, because this changes everything. Padre Pio taught that certain animals are sent, literally sent, to protect your soul during spiritual battles. Not all of them, not randomly. But when you're living in grace, when you're praying, when you're under attack from darkness, God can move a creature to stand between you and danger. And most people never realize it's happening. From the very beginning of time, animals were alongside man. When God created Adam, animals surrounded him. It was a picture of perfect harmony between heaven and earth. They didn't know sin. They only obeyed the Creator's voice. But after the fall, after original sin, that harmony shattered. Humanity drifted away from the light, and the spiritual world became filled with shadows. Yet some traces of Eden remained. And the saints, souls purified by grace, could still hear that echo of innocence in creatures. That's why St. Francis of Assisi spoke with animals. It wasn't fantasy or sentimentalism. It was communion restored between man and creation redeemed by Christ. It was the human soul reconciled with God's universe. Padre Pio understood this deeply. In his letters, he told how the devil appeared to him at night in the form of beasts: a furious dog, a black cat, a bull with eyes of fire. But he also said that God allowed certain good animals to warn him of danger or even defend him spiritually. You see, the spiritual world isn't separate from the physical one. They overlap, they intersect. And animals, because they lack the pride and malice that clouds human perception, can sometimes see what we can't. They sense what we're blind to. Padre Pio knew this. He lived it. And today, you're going to discover how this truth applies to your own life, right now, in your own home. The Bible is full of signs where animals became instruments of divine revelation. Remember Balaam's donkey. The prophet was walking toward his own destruction, blinded by ambition, and only his animal saw the angel with the raised sword. The donkey saved him from death. God opened the animal's mouth to speak to him, but first he had opened its soul to see the invisible. The same thing happens today. There are people living in a state of grace, people who pray, who receive communion, and their animals become sensitive to the presence of holiness or evil. Haven't you ever noticed how your pet gets restless when certain people enter your house, or how they calm down the moment you start praying the rosary? Padre Pio used to say that grace illuminates not only the human soul, but everything surrounding it. The light of a soul in grace spreads like a fragrance that animals perceive, he affirmed. They feel it. They respond to it. Your spiritual state affects the atmosphere of your entire home, and animals pick up on that frequency. But when a house is heavy, When there are arguments, serious sins, impure objects, or a lack of prayer, animals feel that too. They can become aggressive, restless, or stare fixedly at empty corners where you see nothing, but they do. Padre Pio warned, when the enemy cannot attack the soul directly, he surrounds the environment to disturb it. That's why he recommended blessing your house with holy water every week, not just to protect people, but everything living there. He said that when a home is blessed, even the animals sleep in peace. Let me share something that happened to one of Padre Pio's spiritual sons. A young man was walking alone at night down a deserted road. He had his rosary in his pocket, but wasn't praying it. Suddenly, his dog started barking desperately, blocking his path. The guy, irritated, tried to push past, but the animal wouldn't let him move forward. Minutes later, a strange light appeared a few meters ahead. The young man felt a profound cold and understood something wasn't right. He turned around and ran. The next day, he told Padre Pio what happened, and the saint responded, "Your dog was moved by an angel. Not all guardians from heaven have wings." From that day on, that young man never left home without praying his rosary. You see what happened there? The animal became an instrument, not by its own power, but because God moved it, because the spiritual realm was pressing in, and something innocent, something pure, was used to create a barrier. That dog didn't understand theology. It didn't know about spiritual warfare, but it was positioned by providence at exactly the right moment. Now think about your own life. Have there been moments when an animal acted strangely, and later you realized you were protected from something? Maybe you dismissed it. Maybe you thought it was just instinct or coincidence. But Padre Pio would tell you, pay attention. Learn to read the signs, because God speaks in whispers, and sometimes those whispers come through the loyalty of a dog or the alertness of a cat. Saints throughout history have experienced these signs. St. Martin de Porres healed sick animals, and they returned to his side like grateful guardians. St. Rita of Cassia had a small donkey that followed her to the convent, and the sisters said it seemed to obey invisible orders. These weren't accidents. They were reflections of something deeper, a spiritual connection that modern people have forgotten, but that saints never stopped recognizing. Padre Pio, in his humility, said, "The soul that loves God radiates a harmony that every creature recognizes." So sometimes, a dog that follows you, a cat that settles at your feet, a bird that sings at your window right when you pray, these aren't simple coincidences. They can be discreet signs of divine presence, little reminders that you're not alone, that heaven is watching, that even in your smallest moments of faith, creation itself responds. Padre Pio recommended 3 simple but powerful acts to maintain spiritual protection over your home and your animals. These aren't superstitions. They're sacramentals, tools of grace that the Church has used for centuries. And they work because they invoke God's power, not ours. First, pray the Holy Rosary every day. He called it the strongest weapon against hell. Every Hail Mary pronounced with faith is like a flame that drives away darkness. When you pray the Rosary, your animals calm down. The atmosphere changes. Your home becomes an invisible sanctuary where angels guard and demons cannot bear to remain. You might think this sounds dramatic, but Padre Pio lived in constant spiritual combat. He knew what he was talking about. The Rosary wasn't just a devotion for him, it was survival. It was protection. And he insisted that every home needed this daily shield. Second, use holy water with faith. Sprinkle it in the corners of your house, in the bedrooms, in the place where your animals sleep. Padre Pio said, holy water has a power the devil fears. It's a reminder of the baptism that defeated him forever. Don't just splash it around mechanically. Do it with intention. As you bless each room, Ask God to purify that space, to drive out anything that doesn't belong, to seal it under the protection of the cross. Your animals will sense the difference. If they've been restless or anxious, watch how they settle after you've blessed the house properly. Third, light a blessed candle before the crucifix or an image of the Virgin Mary once a week. Offer that light for everyone who lives in the home, for the souls in purgatory, for your animals, for protection against all evil. Because visible light is a symbol of the invisible light of Christ that dispels darkness. Padre Pio added, "Where there is prayer, there is peace. Where there is peace, there are angels. Where there are angels, the enemy does not enter." These three practices create a spiritual atmosphere. Think of it like this. Your home has a climate, not just physically, but spiritually. And just like you control the temperature with heating or air conditioning, you control the spiritual climate with prayer, sacramentals, and devotion. When that climate is healthy, everything living there thrives. When it's toxic, everything suffers, including the animals. But Padre Pio wasn't naive. He knew the enemy can imitate what's sacred to cause confusion. That's why he insisted, always discern with prayer. Not every animal that crosses your path brings blessing. Some presences can generate anguish, fear, or disturbance. If an animal seems to bring constant unease, if you feel an unexplainable spiritual heaviness, don't ignore the warning. Saint Teresa of Avila said, "When a presence doesn't come from God, the soul feels it before understanding it. In that case, sprinkle holy water. Pray Psalm 91, you who dwell in the shelter of the Most High, and ask the Holy Spirit to purify the environment. Then offer 3 Hail Marys to Our Lady of Mount Carmel, asking, 'Mother, cover my house with your mantle, and may every creature here be an instrument of your Son.' And you'll see how the atmosphere transforms. Because where the Virgin Mary enters, the enemy flees, always, without exception. There was a woman who told Padre Pio that her cat meowed desperately just as she was about to light a candle next to flammable curtains. She stopped and avoided a fire. The saint told her, God uses the smallest things to prevent great evils. Be grateful, because that was a warning from heaven. Do you see the pattern? God doesn't always send dramatic signs. Sometimes he just nudges a cat at the right moment. Sometimes he makes a dog bark when you're about to make a dangerous choice. The question is, are you paying attention? Now, if you want to deepen your relationship with the Rosary and understand the spiritual power Padre Pio experienced through this prayer, I have something that can truly help you on this journey. It's an ebook called The Power of the Rosary with Padre Pio, Miracles, Protection, and Divine Graces. This spiritual treasure will help you learn to pray the Rosary with more devotion and depth, understand Padre Pio's most impactful teachings and phrases about prayer, receive a 30-day prayer guide with daily intentions to strengthen your faith, and access special prayers for protection, healing, and deliverance. The Rosary was Padre Pio's great weapon, and today it can be yours too. Don't miss this opportunity to strengthen your spiritual life with material that has already helped thousands of people. To download it, just click the link pinned in the comments. Padre Pio said something few people understood. Animals are the mirror of lost innocence. They have no sin. They don't know malice or pride. So when the human soul approaches them with love, something of paradise is restored for an instant. Have you noticed how an animal calms down when you pet it with peace, when you pray in silence? They feel the frequency of prayer, the vibration of the soul that loves. In heaven, the saint said that harmony will be perfect. All of creation will sing God's glory again alongside redeemed souls. Paradise, he used to say, is not just a place, but a communion, and everything that was loved in purity will find its place in that eternal communion. So if you've lost a beloved animal, don't cry with desperation. Padre Pio consoled those who suffered such losses by saying, "Nothing that was loved by God is lost. Pure love is a seed of eternity." That's not just comforting words. That's theology. That's the reality of a God who wastes nothing, who forgets nothing, who holds every act of love in his eternal memory. But let's come back to the here and now, because there's something else you need to understand. Animals perceive when grace returns to a soul. When you live in a state of grace, when you're striving to follow Christ, your very presence changes the atmosphere around you. Animals pick up on that. They relax. They trust you. But when sin takes root, when your soul is heavy with unconfessed guilt or ongoing rebellion against God, they sense that distance too. Not because they're judging you, but because the spiritual climate has shifted. And they, being innocent, simply respond to what's there. This is why Padre Pio insisted so strongly on regular confession. Not once a year, not when you feel like it, weekly, if possible, monthly at minimum. Because confession doesn't just reconcile you with God, it purifies the entire environment you carry with you. It cleanses the spiritual air you breathe. And everything around you, including the animals in your care, benefits from that restoration. Think of it this way: you wouldn't let garbage pile up in your kitchen for months. You'd take it out regularly because the smell would become unbearable. Sin works the same way spiritually. It accumulates, it festers. It creates a stench in the spiritual realm that you might not smell, but that sensitive souls and innocent creatures absolutely detect. Confession is taking out that spiritual garbage, and the relief isn't just for you. It's for everyone and everything in your sphere of influence. Dear brother, dear sister, maybe today there's an animal beside you that God has entrusted to you, not just to care for, but also to protect you, console you, and remind you that goodness exists. Be grateful for every glance, every silent companionship, every act of loyalty. God reveals himself also in the silence of a dog waiting for you, in the gaze of a cat watching you pray, in the song of a bird announcing the dawn. These are echoes of the Creator, traces of his love in the midst of this wounded world. So tonight, before you sleep, do 3 things. Bless your house with holy water. Go through each room, each corner, and ask God to seal your home under his protection. Light a candle before the crucifix or before an image of the Virgin Mary. Let that flame be a prayer, a symbol of the light that darkness cannot overcome. Then pray Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Let those ancient words settle into your heart. Let them remind you that you're not alone, that you're being guided, that even through the valley of the shadow of death, you have nothing to fear. After you've done those things, look at your animals if you have them. Really look at them. And say in your heart, "Thank you, Lord, for sending them to care for me as small guardians of your love." You'll see how peace descends over your home. Because when the soul trusts, when it loves, when it prays, everything surrounding it becomes part of its light. That's what Padre Pio taught. That's what heaven continues to do. Now I want to hear from you. Write in the comments if you've ever felt that an animal was sent by God to protect you. Share it, because your testimony can strengthen the faith of someone who needs a sign today. Maybe it was a dog that wouldn't let you go somewhere dangerous. Maybe it was a cat that alerted you to something wrong. Maybe it was a bird that appeared at just the right moment. Don't keep it to yourself. Your story matters. And if this message touched your heart, if you see animals differently now, share this video with someone who loves animals. Help them discover that God uses these creatures as instruments of his providence. Because this isn't just information. This is transformation. This is seeing the world the way the saints saw it, with eyes that recognize heaven's fingerprints everywhere. Before we close, I want to ask something from you. This channel exists to spread faith, to bring the teachings of saints like Padre Pio to people who are hungry for truth. But we can't do it without you. If this video blessed you, hit that like button. It tells the algorithm to share this message with more people. Share it on your social media, send it to your prayer groups, recommend it to anyone who needs encouragement today. And if you really want to be part of this mission, consider becoming a member of this channel. Your support allows us to keep creating content that strengthens faith and brings hope. Together, we're building a community that doesn't just consume inspiration, but lives it and spreads it. You're not just a viewer. You're part of something bigger, something eternal. May St. Francis of Assisi, friend of creatures, and Padre Pio, servant of the light, intercede for you. May the Virgin Mary cover your house with her mantle, so that every soul, human or animal, may live under the blessing of God. And may you never again look at an animal without wondering if heaven sent it to remind you that you're loved, protected, and never forgotten. Take care of them, not as mere pets, but as gifts. Not as possessions, but as fellow creatures sharing this journey with you. Feed them well, treat them kindly, and recognize that in caring for them, you're participating in God's original design, that harmony He intended from the beginning. Every act of kindness toward an animal is a small restoration of Eden, a tiny rebellion against the brokenness of this fallen world. Padre Pio believed that when your time comes, when you finally cross over into eternity, you'd see them again. Not because animals have immortal souls in the same way humans do, but because God wastes no love. Everything that was loved purely finds its place in His eternal kingdom. So that dog that comforted you through grief, that cat that sat with you through lonely nights, that bird that sang while you prayed, none of it was meaningless. All of it mattered. Go now with peace. Bless your home. Pray your rosary. Love the creatures God has placed in your care, and trust that you are surrounded by more protection than you can see, because heaven is not far away. It's right here, woven into the fabric of your daily life, speaking through the bark of a dog, the purr of a cat, the song of a bird. Listen closely, pay attention, and you'll realize you've never been alone. Amen.